turn this over to Nick.
So, yeah, Eugene, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to everybody here. You could tell from, I think, the earlier conversation, I had a lot of interest in a lot of different technologies. And this, like I said, 9High is funny because 9High actually started off back in 1999. I just started, collecting a lot of information while I was working for developing technologies and developing business for North and South America for a $3 billion Japanese company. And, at the time, it was really just for selection of technologies. They literally had 700, this one particular company, Ube Industries in Japan, had about over 700 technologies on the shelf that they had developed at about TRL 7. And I came in my first week during orientation. I went over to Ube City in Japan. And they're like, here you go. Here's 700 things you can bring to the market. And I'm like, oh boy. So how do you decide which technologies to bring forward? What can really get traction in the marketplace? How do you determine product market fit? How do you know how much cost is going to bring everything forward? And how do you choose between 700 technologies? And really, the genesis, the start of 9High started then, back in 1999, and it's evolved significantly since then, all the way up through to about 4 years ago now, where we got SBIR funding, phase 1, 2, and 3, total, and then phase 3 was 4.1 million. So we just built out the entire human AI collaborative platform and launched it in 2023. And now we're successfully running a couple of different programs for the DoD and also commercial companies along the way. So 9High is absolutely a viable platform right now. The other thing, as far as the military guys goes, if somebody's muted, if they could, if they're unmuted, if you can please mute. Yeah, where was I? So basically, we were SBIR phase 1, 2, and 3, and we did launch as of last year. So the platform that we're going to show you today, basically think of it this way. What it does is human AI collaboration to guide the development of technologies past the valley of death. And it's a big statement, but we actually have been doing that now for. I've been having good progress towards that. And you can't always beat the valley of death, but I've had probably 3 times better success rate than a lot of people for probably the last 15 to 20 years. And so much so that when I shared it with folks in the Secretary of Defense's office, they loved the idea and they wanted to fund it and bring it into a software platform that really everybody could use within the DoD. And also for commercial markets. And think about it this way, it's really, it's like a GPS system. It's a guidance system in the first place. It's going to establish the starting point of where you are with your technology, and not just your technology, but your team and stakeholders for specific market applications. It gives you the starting point, and then you determine where you want to go to. And it helps you understand the best path forward based on risk assessment. So where are the risks between you and your objectives? What are they? How can they be burned down effectively? And then what is the cost, the resources, and the time that you need in order to do that? And what it is that the patent office has said that essentially there's no prior art for what we built. There's a lot of AI in it, but don't think about it as an AI system per se. There's 12 different large language models in it that we use. But again, it's a framework that resides over the top of AI and over the top of people first. And then what it does is it helps to coordinate those activities back and forth between humans and AI so they can work together to solve problems and to make decisions along the way. So it's based on really modeling, taking that product technology to a market application, but taking it through your team and stakeholders. So these 3 labels here, product technology, team stakeholders, and market application, are a power set. So there's no risk or opportunity that resides outside of these 3 categories. And then what we did is we built a power set underneath each one of these 3 categories. So we have 9 fundamental measurements. And these are the only 9 things you ever need to be concerned about anytime you're developing any technology now for any application. And that's what we've been building out for an awful long time here. And we've got data that I've captured over 20 years. That's an embedded database that we use natural language processing in order to feed through the AI agents and bring it out to people when they're working on certain projects. And we also have generative AI recommendations as a second option so those 2 levels of data are beyond the human team that come together and start to collaborate and work together. But what you also notice here is that within the 9 categories of measurements that we're doing with 9High, it also prioritizes what should be done first. So the end objective, is to get 9s in all 9 boxes, right? But what you want to do is you want to actually start with the lowest score first. So you would start, in this case, with value and reliability first, and you want to bring those sixes to sevens, the sevens up to eights, and eights up to nines. And then by definition, when you have nines in all in boxes, you are successful. You have taken that product technology, you've built it out with appeal, value, and reliability, using your team of stakeholders, and you've brought it to these market applications. And then in the end, you've actually delivered to the customer. So that's how 9High works. That's how the whole model works behind it. And we're going to take you in after I get through the deck. We'll actually take you into a live demonstration of it, which we're excited to show you today. So the way this works is you want to make sure that when you're first starting off, before you actually invest into a project, that the selection of which technologies you're going to be working on is done properly. So we built out different project management modules within 9High. So this is project management. It's human in the loop project management, so that you have AI guidance that's being given to people as they're doing work. And the very first step is selection. So if you say you have 4 or 5 different options of what you could invest into or what you could develop, you want to evaluate them first to find out which ones have the greatest risks in front of them or the greatest cost or time. And then you can put together, maybe a product roadmap based on that. So the selection is really important. And what we've actually built out in the platform for the government folks that are here is you can actually do RFIs, RFPs, and requests for white paper through the 9High platform. Our phase 2 SBIR was actually the proof of concept that we did there was actually overlaying 9High on top of the normal acquisition cycle. So we actually built out a project modules for selection of technologies using RFIs, RFPs, request for white paper, in the same methodology that the government currently uses. But what we do is we think we put forward more comprehensive requirements and better understanding of both the proposers and the evaluators to understand the risks in front of them and what they really need to do. We help them with the selection criteria. So, for example, the sponsor we had was the Joint Enhanced Munition Technology Program. It was under Anthony D'Estasio. He was my TPOC all the way through. Anthony now has been promoted up several times. He's over the MSIP program, which covers like Defense Production Act and IBIS program and several others for industrial-based resiliency. And at the time, we overlaid 9High on top of the acquisition cycle, and we basically showed the government folks that a lot of things they've been investing into for like 15 or 20 years had been flawed as far as how they're evaluating what is goodness, what do they want to invest into, and what is likely to actually hit their end objectives. And we showed them that really they're missing about 40%. They only had about 60% of the proper evaluation criteria that they should be using in order to pick something that actually can be successful. So all that can be done within the selection project. And then what's really important, sure, go ahead.
This is Eugene. So do you think the federal government would benefit from a presentation just on that one subject? I mean, could that be a 30-minute presentation or
sure.
Not enough material there?
Yeah, no. If we get procurement folks in the loop or people who write requirements or folks that are reviewing proposals, I mean, we can take 90%.
I can get DLA in here. I can get DLA in here.
Yeah.
So.
We can take 90% of the time out of proposal review. That was something they got. That's why they funded us. We were only 4 months into a 24-month phase 2 program, and they funded us into a phase 3 because we showed them, look, if you have a better way of just having the proposer, show specific evidence against specific risks and success factors, then the proposal process gets easier to write and significantly easier to review. Because at that point, all you're really doing is making sure that the evidence is there and you agree with it. And maybe you change the score up and down based on what the proposer actually put in for their own evidence in the first place. So yeah, no, this is meant to really streamline that whole process. Because, when the reviewers have to review, say, 250 or 300 or 400 proposals that are 30 to 50 pages long, they're hunting and searching, trying to find goodness in those things in order to award. And wouldn't it be so much easier? We just go down through a list of criteria and check, yes, this is here, that's not here, I agree with this, I disagree with that. And boom, you're literally done in like 10 minutes. That's how fast it can be. So yeah, I'd be very interested if you wanted to set up that sort of call with that kind of group.
Okay, so Howard, you want to ask your question before we move on?
If I can find my button to unmute myself, can you hear me?
Yes,
I can.
Yeah, I was just, you mentioned interest at the Pentagon. I was wondering who in DoD OSD this had been briefed to. Are there any use cases for adoption, the types of things? And I'm particularly interested in the scope and stuff. It seems like a lot of this is more focused on program offices, given the very high level TRLs. So is this in like product centers for for some of the services or something like that being used by any of the system program offices, whatever?
Yeah, so first of all, we just rolled this out at the end of 2023. And it's only in the commercial cloud, so you can't use, it's not in IL4 or IL5. You can't use any CUI in here yet. So it's a bit limited as far as, a lot of government programs do require CUI in order to run. So we're not at a point where they can do that as of yet. As far as briefings go, again, it was Anthony DeStasio was actually my TPOC. He's actually the person who in phase 3 approved all the work that we did. And his last email to me was acting DASD for industrial based resilience. The other people, so Brent Ingraham, we've spoken to. John Garska actually helped me write the 15-page white paper that we have. John Garska is the CISO of OSD. He actually has responsibility for all cyber warfare, not just cybersecurity, but offensive side for every single weapons platform in the DoD arsenal. He helped me write the white paper for it. I just was in the Pentagon yesterday with Assistant Secretary of the Army, who's responsible for digital innovation. So we just pitched to her yesterday, and we have other folks in the Army that we're talking to, both the missile side as well as in like drones and that sort of thing. But no, this is not just for higher level TRLs. That's just the example you see here. This can be done for basic research. In national laboratories. You could be at TRL 1 or 2 or 3. And we have different. I can show you in the demonstration. We have different objectives. The objectives change where in lower TRLs because it's less about market understanding and bringing it to market, and more about just evolving the basic technology. But the same system works regardless of what the TRL is. If you're at TRL 2 and you want to go to 4, or if you're at 5 and you want to get to 8 or 9, it's the same process. Over.
That's it. And that was a really good point, Howard, because when you're dealing with 6.1, 6.2, 6.3 money and the different TRLs, for a research lab to see this, they may not think that it's applicable. So
yeah, I'll show you in the demonstration how that changes. Yeah,
it needs to be spelled out because there's a process. I mean, you go from the research labs to the warfare centers. When you leave the warfare centers, you're supposed to be around TRL 4, and then that's where you get into the Valley of Death, and that's where where the defense industrial base comes in, is to help people navigate the Valley of Death, and that gets you to TRL 7. So,
but if there's anybody on the call now, together. If there's anybody on the call now that would like, a deep dive into any section of this, or if there's another group of the government that we could turn to for sponsorship, especially for that IL4, IL5 security requirement, that would be absolutely wonderful. We'd love to do that. I'll talk to you in a heartbeat. I'll cancel other meetings to talk about that at any time. So just this is an overview. So just want to let you know that it helps you with selecting what to invest into in the first place and what to even choose. So say you even have like 20 different projects potentially, and you just want to evaluate, hey, which one of these 20 projects could help me the best? Out of these things that are on the shelf and we can go out and start, driving solicitations for, which one's going to really pan out for me and help me against my objectives best? We can actually help you with structuring that in the first place. But the other part I want to say is once you actually invest and fund some activity, and now you're the guy actually in the trenches, you're developing, you're trying to get from TRL 4 to 5, you're trying to, justify costs that you have in the program, you're trying to figure out which processes, manufacturing processes or development processes you need to go through, and you're trying to make sure you understand, where is this technology going to go? If I tweak certain features on it, can I all of a sudden, maybe have, 4 more Army applications for it. Maybe this material can't just be used as a skin for a hypersonic, missile. Maybe it can also be used as a lining of a 777 gun or something of that nature, right? So that's what 9High helps you to do, is to link together the appeal, value, and reliability of whatever that technology is to the market applications. So because everybody knows that if you can increase the size and scope of the applications you're going to have more revenue streams, and you're going to make that company more viable and healthy along the way, because you're going to have multiple revenue streams. And that maybe some of those decisions should be made early on in the development process. That you maybe want to have a family of products. That's something that Bill Goodman does a very good job of, is taking and fanning out his material technology so that he has a variety of different use cases for them. And then, of course, demand and access and delivery to the market. So what we're showing is a comprehensive model to be successful in bringing that product technology through your team of stakeholders to the market application. And I'll go through the rest of these slides a little bit faster, because we kind of already explained a lot of stuff. But we're going to show you 4 different data sources.
Hold on, just one second, Howard.
One quickie.
Oh, please.
I need to. I have to drop at 2:30 for a thing, but I am willing to try to explore getting IL4 and higher. And I have a couple of offices that I'm willing to, that I'd like to look at this with. So if we could do a follow-up, I'm going to drop my email here.
Yeah, I'll make the connection, Howard.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful. Thank you. That's what we're looking
for. We can. I said that, and it's MEYER, not METER.
Okay.
I try to type, and I put a T instead of a Y, but it's MEYER. So Eugene, if we can set up something, I would like to try to. I think there is an opportunity to take this a couple of ways, and I'm willing to try to explore this. So let's re-engage on that, okay?
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
And I apologize for having to drop.
No problem.
Well, thanks for being here, Howard.
Very cool. Okay, great. So this, like I said, is a summary slide. It was built to attack the Valley of Death. So like I mentioned before, I started building this in 1999. I was working for the $3 billion Japanese company to select technologies going back and forth. But then after 9/11, I wanted to do something that was more patriotic for the country. So I left that Japanese company and went to a company called Dayton T. Brown. So Dayton T. Brown is a large test lab here in Long Island. And it's actually, we grew it to be the largest privately owned test lab in the country for the DoD. It's kind of like underwriter laboratory for the DoD, where we would do the final qualification test. We could essentially mimic most environments, either undersea, on land, in air, or outer space. So it was an incredible facility to be able to do a lot of good development work and qualification work. And it was there that I saw the Valley of Death firsthand, and I realized that it was such a huge problem. Because honestly, you've got a lot of large companies that can go back for more funding, the Raytheons and Boeings and Lockheeds, but a lot of medium and small companies can't. And unfortunately, we were the people who had to say, sorry, your product didn't pass, and they had to scramble to try and get more funds. And if they couldn't, we literally saw thousands of technologies that didn't go forward when they could have, if they, had made some different decisions along the way. We saw, unfortunately, companies crumble. We saw careers end, and it was a horrible, horrible situation. So, it's not just wasting money's bad, right? But when you see careers and efforts and technologies that go down the drain when they shouldn't have, it's a horrible thing to see. So, and I was a senior executive there. I ran the place. I ran Dayton T. Brown for 7 years. I tripled the size of the business using 9High as a model to guide me along the way. And we got up to about 3,000 projects a year. One project was the nose cone of the Joint Strike Fighter. Another project was the entire lighting system for the Boeing Dreamliner commercial. And then we had medical products and a lot of other things there too. So that's really, after I left Dayton T. Brown, I reached out to Anthony DeStasio, and we started working on the whole SBIR thing to bring this thing forward. So essentially, like I said, when you have 9s in all 9 boxes, you by definition are successful. We do some other things that are really pretty unique as far as risks. So we consider a risk to be anything in your pathway that will stop you from reaching your objective. Okay, that's how we define success. And very interestingly, we also define risks in one of 3. Every risk you can think of, anything that can go wrong with your project, fits into one of 3 categories. It's either going to be a gap, a barrier, or a vulnerability. And the important thing to understand is that the gaps and vulnerabilities are things that you're normally overcoming when you're developing a new technology and when you're bringing that forward. But barriers, if we model a barrier in front of you, it means stop. It means there's something that hasn't been invented yet, some material that isn't available, physics hasn't been, figured out yet. Or there's a law that's prohibiting you from moving forward. So when we model a barrier, that's actually something you should not invest into. That's how we can actually help people from very beginning, is not investing into things that haven't been fully vetted out as far as what the basic technology is going to be. So for example, maybe you think you're at a TRL 7, but there's some component in your pathway that it's still at TRL 2. Well, you really got to go back and figure out that TRL 2 issue first, or TRL 3, and advance it forward before you can go forward. The other thing that's nice about 9 High, like we said, is you want to bring your 6s to 7s, your 7s to 8s, your 8s to 9s, and it gives you the way of prioritizing the work that you have to do along the way. So that's pretty much how 9 High works. We're going to just show you now. So that's all the difficult stuff. You understand this 2-tier power set. It's brand new to a lot of people. How does it work? How does it guide me? But the process when you deploy is actually really simple, because when you have this whole framework in front of you and it sets up where you need to go and where you are, the process then is actually relatively straightforward. You just need the human team and AI together. The AI agents will be working together to determine what the risks are in each of these 3 categories: product, technology, team, stakeholders, market, application. And then we determine the success factors, those things that are going to burn down the risks in each of the 9 categories. Those are the things that we're going to score, and that give you the scores that we showed you before. We go through a mapping. Go ahead.
It's Steve Moretto has his hand up.
Oh, please, Steve, go right ahead.
Oh yeah, hi Dave. I was just talking to heads of companies and stuff, and you had the same situation where you have the greatest thing since sliced bread, and you want more money, and you'd actually, could make it a very popular commodity, but you have that sort of financial risk. In fact, we ran into an investment banker, and he thought one of the companies was great, but it was not far enough along to be sort of like a commercial institutional investment.
Okay.
So how does 9 High help let's say identify the right sort of finance people or CFOs or whatever it needs to get you the money at the right time? How does that how can company, if your tool doesn't do it, what does it, or where can we go to find a decent CFO?
Let me talk about that on a micro scale, then a macro scale. Okay, so, and first of all, I've been working with venture capital folks for the last 2 years, and honestly, they're not that sophisticated when it actually comes to understanding the risks that are involved with developing a technology. They just don't. They look at financial measures all the time, right? So there's a natural, actually on the macro scale, there's a natural disconnect between people that have money, okay, and people trying to develop technologies. They're speaking 2 different languages. The priorities for the people who have the funds are different than the priorities for the people who need the funds. And there's a chasm in between them. Now, what 9 High can do is to help to bridge that gap between the people developing and the finance people, and also marketing people as well. So the idea is to try and get them speaking the same language much more so than they are now. Because the financial people just go by, hey, what's my return on this? And if somebody just games it a little bit and makes it look like they can have some kind of massive return, then the venture capital folks typically jump in. And next thing you know, and the venture capital folks, by the way, we talk about the valley of death for the government being a 90% failure rate, right? So Steve, you just teed this up for me, so thank you for that. But the government failure rate is 90%. Guess what? For venture capital folks, and this is real. I've been talking to them for 2 years and interviewing an awful lot of them, and also people who've gotten venture capital. Venture capital is invested into 40 opportunities to get one that pans out. That's a 97.5% failure rate. So they're even worse at it than the government development labs in getting something through to the warfighter. So let me go down to the micro level now. When you're we have an entire category out of the 9, right? There's 9 boxes there. There's an entire category called finance. Now the finances are both the outcomes that you're going to get as far as like ROIs that you're investing into, but they're also meant to be measures of all the other 8 boxes. So in other words, when you're talking about building appeal, value, and reliability into the product, you know what I mean? What will the costs be of being able to build those features and capabilities into the product and reliability? But then what also will be the return that you get back out of that? And then are you tracking your costs as you're building this out along the way? And same thing with people and processes. Are there capital costs? Are there variable costs that you have along the way that you're going to have to make into this? What are the investments you're going to need? 9High will do a very good job of making sure that you account for those costs along the way, and that you can then start to present that to the venture capital community, okay? Because it'll help you to explain why you have certain costs in your development plan going forward, and help to break that stuff down and show them the evidence of what they're going to do. We actually have in the platform now, we have several venture capital and private, probably call it more private investment funds, people in the 9High platform now to help and evaluate and be part of your team, so they can actually look at those costs and help you understand those things. So as much, and we also want that from the government side too. That's really what a program element is, right? They're the people with the funds who have to understand, where their money is going, what they're getting for it, and what the risks are of actually getting a benefit out of that along the way. So those program element folks are in the government are very similar to the private capital folks in the private side. Where they need to understand why, what you talked about, those immediate costs, right, Steve? When you're first buying something versus the lifetime cycle costs, we need to have both. They're both important, guys. And you can't have one will offset against the other. Sure, you might have a little bit higher cost, compared to the total life cycle cost, and totally get that. And that's a huge benefit. But you also have to be able to afford the initial option in the first place. You have to be able to afford that budget. So, those are the trade-offs that 9High can help you evaluate. And then you put it in a language that they can understand. So that was a very good question. Did I answer it completely, Steve, or was there anything else there that you want me to discuss?
Yeah, that helps. Cash flow is king. So
yeah, understand. You got to be able to afford it in the first place. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So money now is worth more. It should get a higher ROI, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. Time value of money, and inflation. Inflation burns that very quickly. So anyway, so going back to the presentation here. So on slide, and by the way, anybody else who has a question along, please stop me. It's fine. I do this presentation every single day, so I can go in and out, no big deal. So what we've done now is we've made the process very simple. There's only 4 steps. Steps 1 through 3 are the brainstorming activities. So in step 3, what we've done is we map the success factors against the risks that you have to make sure that all the risks are being burned down. But we're also learning a lot about these success factors. We're finding which ones of these are actually the most valuable to us. Which ones do we want to have in that pathway going forward to our end objective? And which ones are burning down critical risks, and which ones are burning down the most risks? So from that, now we go into step 4, which is, hey, this is reality. Step 4 is where Steve Moretta lives every single day. We have so much time, we have so much money, and so much resources in order to accomplish something. So what is that optimum path now that you have going forward? What should you be doing? Which risks are you be able to burn down? And which ones are you going to have to leave by the wayside? So it helps you to determine what you can do in the short term with that development program. So how does all 9High work behind the scenes? We have 4 layers of data sources. The 4th one actually is not integrated yet until we have that government customer. We're going to be using their own data. But the best source of data always is humans. So you have a cross-functional subject matter expert team. How do you know that your cross-functional team is actually cross-functional? And how do you know that they have the skills that you need in order to understand the risks in front of you and how to address those risks? Well, we have an agent that's going to help with that. So Orion is the very first AI agent you'll work with. And we have these personas we've built out because behind the scenes, we actually have like 12 different large language models that are working. And we don't want to confuse people by having 12 different sources of info coming at them. So we run them through these 5 personas so that you know that whenever you're working with Orion, it's about subject matter experts and making sure your team is balanced and right for what you're trying to address. Scorpius is always going to be pointing out risks to you. Cassie is always going to be helping you with success factors to burn down those risks. Hercules is going to be helping you with solutioning. And then Libra helps with evidence that'll drive the scores that we had before and show you how those work. So a good human team. This is what I learned in that big laboratory when I ran, over 15,000 projects over 7 years, big projects, for the DoD and for medical industry mostly. Is that a good human team will typically capture and address about 80 to 85% of the risks and success factors within their project. But the problem is that last 15 to 20% is what causes the valley of death that we've seen to the 90% failure rate. It's the things that you have the knowledge quadrant of, you know what you know what you don't know, so you can go and research it and find out about it. But the last quadrant of you don't know what you don't know is what bites you and causes all that failure to happen. So that's what we're supplementing. We're supplementing that human team with other things that they would love to know but just don't know about. And we do that with our own vetted database. Again, I've been capturing data as far as risks and success factors against various technologies and various applications for the last 25 years. It's pre-vetted. We know these are things that people really need to be concerned about. We use natural language processing, so we take that data and we make it relevant to you and your project along the way. So that's the second source. You got humans first, our vetted database next, and then we have a GPT tool in here also. And that's actually working with OpenAI and Microsoft. So I was very lucky early on in our phase one SBIR to be introduced to the Chief Technology Officer of Microsoft, Anu Gupta. And Eugene was just on a call with me and Anu earlier today. Great guy. He's actually left Microsoft and he's on my advisory board now. So he got me in to understand GPT before it became a household name. We learned its shortcomings and its benefits, and we designed around those to bring it into 9 High in a really unique way that's probably even better than what OpenAI uses. And then the last source is we would then say we get IL4 and IL5 and we have an approval to operate with the government. We would then point our AI agents to their data for only their use, and we'd have a lot better use of the government data that's rich and relevant that can help people out along the way. So that's basically how 9 High works. What I want to do, this is a use case here that we're going to show you. You can see it's Goodman Technologies. Bill Goodman graciously lets me share this with people to show them, how a good project is put together. He's got some monster capabilities in here. I'm going to actually share a different screen with you now and take you over to the platform. Hold on one second, please. So I'm going to share my other screen here and take you right into the platform. And Eugene, let me know when you can see this, please. Can you guys see the screen? Okay, great.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. So this is Bill Goodman's project. Bill, thank you so much for letting us share this. So normally you would not be able to see his project in here. You wouldn't be able to see all these details. The way that this works is there's groups, projects, and topics within 9 High, and the group controls the projects. So just like what Eugene's going to be doing, Eugene's going to be setting up, and I'll let him explain it, but he has already set up his own group, and he's starting to set up projects that he'll be inviting people into. And then he'll help to kind of disperse people and keep tabs on projects and make sure that things are moving forward as he goes forward. But so Bill Goodman's got his own group and project in here. And you can see it's a development project. It's under Goodman Technologies. And this particular project is for steel replacement, something that the Navy is particularly interested in. And we can show you how he's actually starting to collaborate with Steve Moretto in this as well. So the way this works is a project is actually relatively easy to set up because, again, we've got this whole framework that teaches the team and understands that the AI understands, what you're trying to achieve within your project. So what Bill's done, and he's done a very good job of it, is he set this up as private, so only people who are invited into this project can see it. It's active. It's a development project. It's for steel replacement. So what Bill's done, Dr. Bill's done, is done a very good job of putting in information here about his project description. What he's not training the model, but he's teaching the model about his specific project. Okay, and it's sort of a lower level of training that's only for his specific needs here, and. So from it, he gives a good introduction. He talks about the applications of it. He's teaching the AI agents, and he's also teaching his team. He can bring in other members of his team, and I'll show you how he's done that. So about what he's trying to accomplish here. So this is setting up the project, but it's also establishing the baseline of intelligence for the AI agents. Okay, and then what he did also a very good job of was putting in his objectives. And now this is saying the endpoint of where he wants to go. So now the AI agents are like, okay, they're understanding what his technology is all about, what his team's all about, those market applications, and Bill's starting to teach it. Here's the objectives I have. Here's the budgets. Here's the duration. This is what I want to be able to accomplish along the way. Now, from that, we also have TRL ranges. So he started off at TRL 5 and 6 versus 7 and 9. What you can see here also, we were talking about colors of money before, right? Say you're in the government. We actually built a tool, and we built into this tool an ability to align technologies to specific colors of money. So we actually have this eligibility and non-eligibility band. So the way it turns out in 9 high, eligibility is all about the value and reliability that you already have. So in other words, if you may be evaluating a technology and maybe the color money is only good for, TRL 4 through 7, for example, which was kind of like that GemTip organization that sponsored us in the first place. Well, Bill's technology, if he's establishing that he's at 5 and 6, it belongs in this band and it is eligible for those funds. If somebody's presenting something that's really off the shelf or just needs some simple modifications, it doesn't qualify for that color money and we in the black region. So we have this as both sort of a heat map or stoplight map showing you the level of risk related to any particular technology, and then also the eligibility at the same time. Here's actually the really important part is because this whole framework exists, all we have to do is put in keywords now. So Bill, again, did a good job of explaining where he is and where he's going. And then the only thing else he had to do here is put in keywords related to the product technology, team stakeholders, and market application. And that's it. He has pretty much the whole project set up. Now he just goes in with this human team, and Bill's done this. He's identified risks for the product technology, team stakeholders, and market application. And after the human teams put their risks in, again, he doesn't have to do anything else to start getting recommendations. It automatically, like if he didn't even know what risks, say he didn't know what risks to put in the first place, all you gotta do is click here. And it's gone through a vetted database. It understands his project and is making recommendations for things that can improve the appeal, value, and reliability of his product along the way. Okay, so that's how that works. And then same thing for team and stakeholders. You can do the same thing over here for his project, and the same thing for the market side. So you can get recommendations for all his risks. But say, his team's gone through it. They got their 85% level stuff. He's gone through a vetted database. We also have this the last ditch tool, which is the generative stuff, which we never know how it's going to respond to.
Eugene,
go ahead. Yep.
Hey, before you go on from that, just a question. If you go up to back to the color of money.
Sure.
So now would the warfare centers, research labs, they're capital funded, which means
Yep.
that they're not appropriated funds, so they have to go find their own funding.
Okay.
Can they advertise in here as far as this is the color of money that we have, or this is the color of money that we can accept? And then also you get into these, a lot of people in the commercial industry don't understand this, but contracts, somebody gets a $50 million contract. Well, they don't get $50 million.
It's a ceiling on a contract.
It's a ceiling on a contract.
Yeah.
So they have the ability to run $50 million worth of work through that contract. Could that contract be listed some way on here to say that, this is the vehicle and these are the technologies or the TRLs?
Yeah, we could do a lot of that. So 9 high, really, this is the tip of the iceberg, okay, of building out a system for the government. So we like I said, we have selection modules in the first place. So especially for proposals, say somebody sends it, you get 450 proposals come in, right? And right off the top, we could just do a scan, and out of those 450, maybe 10% of them we would actually score outside the acceptable band. We would just eliminate them and say that they're not eligible because they don't align properly to the color of money that you have on the way. Okay. As far as advertising in the first place, yes. So like I said, we actually have a whole module that mirrors the acquisition cycle of the government. So when they put out a solicitation in the first place, they would be telling people, the proposer themselves, okay, would be using 9 high to respond to the government. So when they're building up their proposal and putting it all forward, they might be telling themselves, oh no, this isn't a match. Why am I even proposing to this? Because they're saying that the color of money they have is between TRL 4 and 7. And mine's coming in at 2. Mine's more like basic research. I don't qualify. So it helps to inform the responders as well as help the government to kind of filter out, whether or not that proposal is actually applicable or not. Make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. And I was looking at it more from a team building kind of a thing, so you know who to align with.
Yeah, no. So, other things like that could be done. It all depends. You could just invite people into the platform to collaborate on things like that in that nature also. So, yeah, a lot of that could be done. There's all sorts of scenarios we'd love to design around. Beyond what we've already built out. But we got a pretty comprehensive solution already. That's why I'm interested in meeting with Howard later. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. And I don't want to take you too far off on a tangent. So go ahead.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So again, going back to the risks that Bill had done here, right? So let's do something else. Let's say that Bill's team's gone through and done everything they could do. They've gone through the vetted database and they've looked at all those recommended risks. They've taken some, they modified some to make sure it's really what they want to do in the project. But they still want to just say, well, what is the rest of the world thinking about when they're thinking about nanocomposites? Again, this is based on the technology and the application, right? When you talk about nanocomposites, for say automated manufacturing. Okay. And, so remember I said that I think we do things a little even better than what ChatGPT does. Here's the big issue. Here's what we learned. And we actually tested this out during our phase 2. We didn't want to go in and just use ChatGPT like ChatGPT, because what people do there is they ask questions. And here's the big one, guys. 90% of the time when people use ChatGPT, they will ask the wrong question, or they'll ask the question the wrong way. And when you ask the wrong question, sometimes you get a response back that's weird. And the human is like, well, that's a hallucination. That's not what I was asking for. Sometimes it is a hallucination. Other times it's because actually the syntax of the way that somebody formed the question was understood differently by ChatGPT than what the person intended. Okay, and that's important. That's really important, because when you might get back a response that just doesn't make sense, and you're going in the wrong direction because of that. The other thing that's even worse, okay, is when you ask a question ChatGPT and you get back an answer and it sounds reasonable, sounds right, and now you're taking that and running in a direction with it, but you're running in the wrong direction. So that's even though this looks very simple, the important thing is we're not letting people ask an initial question until we set them in a direction in the framework. We know where they are, we know where they're going, and we can start making recommendations of what they have to do next, and then we'll let them ask a question. So that's a big difference. So we just put in 2 keywords here, okay? And then we say, okay, ask GPT for recommended risks. We've done the prompt management behind the scenes, and it just came back with the top 8 things generatively. This is always different about what you should be doing related to project technology for Bill Goodman's project, for his technology and his application for automated manufacturing. And these are things that are reasonable, that seem like they're pretty good. And then we'll let somebody do a follow-up question on any one of these things afterwards. So that's something that we learned about ChatGPT from early on. We learned about the human frailties of communication and in the English language. And we tried to design around as best as possible by using all these keywords in here. So the keywords in the framework will really make all this stuff work. And then the last couple steps here, we're going to leave this. And this last page is really where the success factors come in. We map them. So you had all the risks on the prior page. You have your success factors in each of the 9 categories, and you map them together to find out what's the most important. You can check off and match them together. We have an accounting of them on the side, so we can see which ones of these are more important than others along the way. And then, Bill's gone right into his technology readiness tab, where he's now got one piece of evidence in here that helps to move one of his success factors forward. And this is just an example, but he will be moving this forward in a project once he has the funding and everything in place for it. So this is pretty much how 9High works. We'd love to get people in here. It's very low cost. It's only $599 per seat per year. So it's meant to be affordable for everybody. And we're all about trying to get you in, and you get the first couple of months for free. Even you can sign up right now on the platform. We give you 2 months for free. If you don't like it, don't come back. If you like it and you're collaborating and you're inviting people into it, let me just show you. We have a collaboration. I mean, this is project pool management up here. So what does look at the members that Dr. Bill has in here. Who's he got? Steve Moretto. He wants Steve to come in and look at his project. He's got Garrett from University of South Florida. He's got Johnny Walker in here also from Hollisale. So he's got people who can come in and help him with this project and collaborate and critique. So Steve Moretto is going to know things about the end application. that he can help Dr. Bill understand as far as bring his technology forward. And then you can have collaboration in here. So I made a couple of comments to Dr. Bill. I thought he should look at a couple of these risks, manufacturing risks, that I think should be addressed more. So this is how we work together and collaborate as a human team. And what we're doing a special project within 9 High, for Eugene and how he's going to manage his groups. He's going to have groups. He's going to be advertising and promoting different opportunities, and then we're going to be running specific projects under his auspices within the 9 High platform. So we're a software company. We just love people like Eugene that are doing what they're doing. We love you guys that are doing the development work that you guys are doing, and we just want to see people be more successful. Because again, I ran that laboratory for 7 years, and I saw people's careers end, and it was just a horrible, horrible situation. We were the ones, unfortunately, delivering the bad news. So we want to deliver a lot more good news and get things to the warfighter. And that's pretty much my presentation, Eugene. If there's any questions, I'm happy to talk more.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. So who's up?
Oh, just like if Rachel involved some way.
Joe?
This was trying to, so a finance app.
Hey, sir, how are you? Can you hear me?
Good. Very good. Thank
good
you.
to-
Yes.
Good to have you here.
Yes, fantastic. Okay, this is Joe Gomez, OUSD Arnie. So our focus is primarily unmanned systems, but I really like your approach and kind of wondering, what do you imagine something like this? What's the cost?
Okay, so when we're talking about deploying to the government, it's a little bit different, right? So no matter what, the per seat license cost is only $5.99 per user per year. Okay. And then the deployment cost would be more. So we have to put this into the Gov Cloud, and we have to get through IL4, IL5 to get an approval to operate. To do that's going to cost about $1.3 to $1.5 million. So that's a big nut, but that's the initial piece we need to get that. And you possibly could even get a few different services together, pulled together to get, that kind of ATO approval. And then from there'd be some integration pieces where we're then pointing our AI agents to your data to have rich, relevant data from the government, only used for government purposes, behind the firewalls, inside the government cloud, and that it depends on what you want to do and how you want to do it. So we'd have to work through any other features that you want in 9 High, any special reporting that you want, but it's not going to be much more of a cost after that. It's just going to be, we build, if you want some new feature, we build it, we quote it, we tell you what it's going to be, and we move on. And then you have it there as an ongoing capability. So it's meant to be low cost, but go ahead.
Have you done any on SIPR?
On SIPRnet you're talking about?
Yes.
No, so we only are released on the Azure Commercial Cloud right now. So it's essentially IL2. So we cannot have any CUI in here. We can't have any higher levels of data other than just regular commercial work. That's why we do. If you're in the Army now, I believe you said.
No, OUSD.
You're not. OUSD. Okay. So yeah, again, this came from the ANS side. This was Anthony DeStasio on the ANS side that sponsored us to get this far. We would love to get the R&E guys in here. Love to get some sort of a contracted effort going with you forward with you guys. We know it can be a great tool for you, and it's a great way to branch over things that you're doing with the services along the way.
Yeah, definitely interested. Obviously can't say any money, right? Because that's not my job.
Yep,
my job is just interest in technology.
Of course.
But I'll reach out with my info. Over.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Hopefully that means I explained it well.
Yeah, no, it also means that it's 2 minutes to 3.
It's time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Time to move to the next one. Sure.
I have a quick question, please.
Sure.
Go ahead, Ryan.
When you're running your AI on sensitive information,
Right.
Or products that are not patented yet, can you set the AI to fully erase the data that you had previously input?
Very good question. So again, not talking about CUI, we're just talking about commercially private data. So yeah, anytime that you got to imagine that everybody's project in here is going to have some level of sensitive IP that they don't want other people to see. Let me just answer I'm going to answer 2 parts of it. One is non-AI and the other one is AI. When you're setting up your project in the first place, you set it to private so that only people that you allow in will see it. Okay, so that's one level of privacy that we have. But the question you ask is actually a very good one, and we have designed 9High to really design around that. Recognize that when you're doing the query, so again, you can actually use your human team first. You can use our vetted AI, which is only going to our database, so it's not going out to public models. It's not going to share anything with anybody else. If you're concerned, just don't use that last level of the generative AI. But if you want to use it, keep in mind that when you're using the generative AI, and I'm going to take you over to the risks right now just so you can see that, what we're actually doing in each of these cases, like say, for example, we're looking at success factors. The query that's going out through the public, I call it public model leakage, having information about your project go out to the public models and inform other people about what you're doing. The prompt that goes out is only specific to, for example, this right here would be only specific to this specific keyword for technology, and this one for the application, only and against the appeal of a specific technology. Nobody would ever know who's doing it, what their IP is, who it's associated with, or what the market application is, or anything else. So it's just like with top secret information. If you're familiar with that, everything gets lots of times it's compartmentalized. 9High naturally, by breaking it down into 9 pieces to help understand it better, it also compartmentalizes in a way that breaks it down so that you're not informing anybody through the GPT models back out to the public model. It's breaking it down to 9 pieces to compartmentalize it that way, if that makes sense. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, really well. I'm really impressed with that, actually. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, then that was designed in. That was part of what we wanted to do in the first place, because we know that, look, every development program is going to have sensitive IP in it. If there isn't, why are you doing it? You want to always protect your IP. Everybody does. One of my master's degrees was in IP, so I understand that stuff. Yeah.
And it's not just that, but if you think about doing research for a classified project.
Well, that's going to be different because you'll be in the GovCloud and other things too, and even GPT and how we do that. Believe me, that's going to be a whole different ballgame. That's what it's going to cost 1.5 million to build that out. And that's not even, that's going to be IL4, IL5. That's not going to be, you got to do even more things to get to, classified levels. That's just for CUI, right?
Yeah, but even if you're just, you have to be careful about any kind of searches that you do, that so you don't aggregate. You don't have problems with aggregation, where somebody is being able to feed off of your search for XYZ and
that's correct.
Another search from that IP address for something else, and then put all those pieces together to figure out what it is that you're working on.
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah.
Something I've been researching lately, and Elon Musk was talking about, is a problem with a lot of AI programs, is when you customize them, and we'll just say, for example, you say the phrase, "I prefer rock and roll music." Well, now and forever, the AI will always sway towards giving you rock and roll music suggestions. And unless you erase that input, it'll forever be remembered in a way.
Okay. So I'm tracking what you just said, and I'm just thinking. I always think in terms of 9High. So we are learning in 9High. So in other words, but we're learning and associating with each of the 9 components. So in other words, what we're also tracking is how successful a project is. And we also track who puts in what kinds of recommendations along the way too, when we're making recommendations for who should help you on a team. So because we do want this to be learning to an extent, but you're right, you don't want it to learn to a point where you want to just fill in a spot so it's not learning anymore, right? I guess is the way to put it. I'm not quite sure.
Well, you don't want it to give you biased results.
That's correct, right?
But you want your searches to always be unbiased.
Right. So what I can tell you is, since we launched this thing at the end of 23, over the year, I've seen responses get better in our natural language processing, for example, when we're going from our vetted database. The responses it gives are actually better aligned now to the people's projects than it was before. So I can tell you that learning is happening within the platform, and it's giving you better responses. And so as people use this, the system should get better. But it's nice that we're breaking into 9 pieces, because that's just trying to give you a single perfect answer. It's trying to give you a piece of the picture that applies for each of the 9 pieces. And that's actually really important, I think, because, for example, like when we use GPT also, we're using an older version of GPT. Okay, and we do that for a reason. One is just cheaper, but some of the newer versions we didn't like. We tested them, and the newer versions of GPT try to give you a perfect answer. Okay, and we don't want perfect answers. We want people thinking, and we want people aware of things they should be thinking about. And that's sort of a difference in that we actually shied away from some of the more advanced models from OpenAI. We stayed away from them because the older versions actually present you more of a picture of different options you should consider. So I think I understand your point and your question, and we tried to work around it, but look, we're always looking to advance what we're doing. This could be, like I said, tip of the iceberg, where the AI that's going to advance out of this, should be getting better and better every single year, and we will be putting in more features and capabilities as we do that. So we'll be thinking about what you just said.
And Dave, I want to address Joe Gammas really quick.
Sure.
Joe, if you're still there.
I'm here, sir.
You might want to see if you can route this up through to OSD and Defense Industrial Base, because if you can get DIB buy-in on a project like this, because it would be very applicable to the Defense Industrial Base, it would help.
Yeah, it's probably significantly higher than me, but I still want to gain the information because it's fantastic technology. It's going to go somewhere, so just got to be aware of it. Over.
Okay.
So what I can do is, we can the presentation, the deck that I just put on, is available to you guys. I have a 2-pager that is more than an executive summary just for socializing, and then I actually have a 15-page white paper that, again, John Karska, he's the acting CISO over at ANS. He's responsible for all cyber warfare for every weapons platform. He helped me write it, along with Anu Gupta. So I've got the white paper, I've got the deck I just showed you, and that 2-pager, and happy to socialize that with all of you. Eugene, if you can help me distribute that, that'd be great.
Yeah. So I got the presentation. I don't know that I have the white paper. I'll have to check.
Okay. Yeah.
In my files, but absolutely, I'll put that all in a repository.
Okay. And how does it work? So I guess everybody on these calls have access to that repository you have. Is that the way that works?
Everybody has access to the repository, but most of the time, people just send me emails, or if they want a copy of the recording, they'll send me your presentation isn't that big. I can email it, but sometimes I get DoD safe requests to distribute them, but you'll be copied on everything. I already sent your presentation to Howard Meyer and copied you on that, but you will get copied on all the follow-up. Tomorrow I'll go through the transcript. I'll pull out everything from the transcript and start sending emails tomorrow, Friday, to reintroduce everybody and talk about what they talked about.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Are we good? This was an excellent session. Thank you, Eugene. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. All right. Anybody else? Okay. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Dave. I think this has been really good. I will be following up. Next week is, I believe next week is another assault presentation on composites and ballistic applications, and then we're also going to talk about quantum.
Very good. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
So Derek, hold on.
Oh.
So Derek, it's AI Strategy Corp. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah, AI Strategy Corp. Yes. So AI Strategy Corp is the name of the company, and then 9 High is the platform. My email is davem@ai-strategy.com. And then the website is nine-hi.com.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon.